That's my Wicked Witch's laugh. No?
No, it didn't work. It
It
didn't
didn't
come
work?
across. It didn't work. Oh, dear me.
Well, for our Halloween episode, I thought we don't have any sound effects because you're too cheap, so I thought I had to do it on my own.
But when you said we were doing a Halloween episode, I thought maybe I would invest in uh some scary music or some scary noises. But yeah, I think you've just sort of put the nail in that coffin. Oh, see what I did there?
But oh dear God, is this going to be a dad's joke episode? Is that what this is going to turn into? All right, scratch that. Let's start over. Clean it up. Clean it up. Our audience deserves more than this.
Okay, yes.
All right, so October 30th, the Monday before Halloween. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Association Transformation. Elisa Pratt, Brewer Pratt Solutions, reporting for duty. Andrew Chamberlain, hello, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good, thank you. I'm this time of year, whenever we chat or whenever I work with anybody in the States, I'm always sort of blown away by how excited you all are about Halloween.
I love Halloween. I
'Cause
don't, what, so this is not, you even have a young daughter who I would assume would want to, do you guys trick or treat? I mean, can we have a cultural discussion here real quick? Like, what do you do?
we do, but it's just not on the same scale. Like, you guys like decorate your houses and you do all sorts of stuff and like have like parties and get into it and really enthuse and we I turn all the lights off and sit in the office in the back of the house and nobody can tell me.
What? You don't even give candy to oh, you're such a grumpy old man. All right, but it makes a lot of sense. It's not, to be honest, it's not a shocker. It's a reason to kind of decorate and have fun, and it's an excuse. It's an excuse to get out of your normal routine. But I also happen to love horror movies,
Uh-huh.
and they're a chance to escape. And in the association space, this is maybe not an appropriate correlation, but in the association space, I continue to hear horror stories.
Wow,
And
that's segue. It's like you planned it. Honestly, that was
I,
astonishing the way you went from House of Horrors to associations. It's amazing. I love it.
oh, come on. Well, you use the term House of Horrors. We've been in this industry too long to not have a plethora of stories that just still make us cringe.
Yes.
Whether it's from the hallways of ASAE annual, whether it's from, long ago clients that we helped find the light, whatever.
Uh-huh.
We've heard it all, we've seen it all. And I don't know. I thought we could maybe, put that pumpkin spice chill in the air if we chatted about some of the worst things we'd ever seen or heard.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, I've got my pumpkin spice latte, flat white in front of me. Well, you start us off. Tell me a scary story. Um, or from it could be from either your past or maybe from someone else's past. But go on, what's one of the
It's from
worst
all,
things?
yes, it's in my witch's brew of anecdotes and stories and experiences. It's all mixed together. This is all inspired by true stories, but we're protecting the innocent here. I don't know about you, but as I came up through associations, I was always most horrified by the board officers who used their term as chair or president or whatever for no other reason than to pick the location of the meeting.
Oh my God, really?
Like it was just a junket. It was just a boondoggle. I don't know what other words you guys use for that kind of stuff, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
basically so they and their wives could go to this fancy hotel or this fancy resort for the board retreat or the annual meeting, a place
Uh-huh.
they wouldn't go on their own dime. And I was just always so shocked and horrified by how no one ever put a stop to this or called them out on this or asked what this had to do with the mission or the purpose.
Now, is that because the cult of personality pervades around the role of president in the association world? Because I've bumped into this recently. I've been chatting to people and they've been saying, "Oh, not the president is choosing only president because they want to choose the conference location," but there seems to be often I'm noticing like some sort of odd deference to the president in terms of when decision making, board decision making. Sometimes I feel like boards are being maybe a bit unduly led because they maybe not understanding that actually the president is the first among equals. And
You're right. I mean, between this group of the popular kids or the people who have been paying their dues for a generation waiting to get there, and then exercise all the authority they think they should have.
yeah,
Board, gosh, boards are a Pandora's box of horror stories. I hate to
yeah.
say.
Well, you can imagine that it is the governance. He's going to say dream, but this is Halloween, so it is the governance
Nightmare.
nightmare that you usually sort of open Pandora's box and discover all sorts of gruesome realities going on. I mean, I think the one that always blows my mind with boards is when I work with boards, or I've been sort of in and around them, and I find out that actually that 2/3 of the board, or the 2/3 of the decision makers, the accountable body, aren't actually sort of legally registered. Uh,
Oh wait, are we digging into the graveyard of non-compliant
the,
nightmares?
the number, and you know what? I really hope that the listeners now going, oh, I think I better just double check actually, because
Oh wait, did we file our taxes? Oh wait,
yeah,
had
that
we filed our 990s? Oh wait, do we have insurance for that event? Oh,
insurance. Insurance is the other one. Insurance. I'll come on to that in a second. But yeah, the number of you've got this group of willing, engaged, energetic volunteers, enthusiastic, making decisions, guiding the strategy development, willing to be held accountable for their decision making and the success of the organization, but actually not having any legal responsibility at all for financials, for contracts, for media, for anything. And that the that
it
I've
keeps you up at night. I mean, it is a horror show.
well, it
It's
is. It is. And people are kind of like surprised when you say to them, you do know that, you could go to jail for this if in the extreme. And the number of people that don't realize that is just staggering. But
it's
again, I
scary in itself. Yeah, this is when we need sound effects. We have to get sound effects. I'm
okay.
going to petition all 27 of our listeners and ask them if they think we should get sound effects. I
When
think
you
we should.
listen after that we've done this recording, when you hear how I've edited it,
It'll be scary. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. I don't want this whole Halloween fright fest to center on boards.
no, but what I will say is that you're right. It doesn't all have to center on boards, but leadership starts at the board. And I think, how often do I bang on about the need to make sure that we train and support and invest in our boards just as we do with our staff. And I think, these horror stories, as convenient as they are for a Halloween podcast, they can be so easily avoided if organizations just invest in time and energy into training and developing and supporting their volunteer leaders better. I think
Oh yeah.
there's just a massive big tick there, and so many headaches just avoided.
I know, gosh. And it waterfalls into so many areas. I mean, one of the other nightmares I had heard about was a new CEO, and they
Mm.
always come into a scary situation, right? They
Mhm.
probably haven't been told the full story while they've been interviewing. They
Mm.
probably didn't ask all the hard questions they should have because they really want the job. And when they get in and then they pull back the curtain and they see how and what and where everything is. I mean, I had a friend who just took their first CEO job, and the board had appointed themselves in charge of hiring, firing, and establishing the pay and bonus structure of all staff, not just the exec, not just the one employee that they actually have, but
Uh-huh.
all the staff. And so
Right.
what happened?
Yeah.
Staff would circumvent
Uh-huh.
the senior staff and staff leadership structure and build relationships directly with board members.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
I bet.
It was a nightmare.
How did they overcome it? How did they change that? Did they restructure? Did they sort of did they removed? Do you know? Did they remove that?
I think, well, to be honest, she wasn't there forever. So I think she was the change agent that they needed. She was the mirror that had to be held up, and it cost her probably, to say, hey, this isn't how things get done. She cleaned the place up and moved on, and the next organization, the next executive then benefited from the fruits of her labor, because it was pretty rough there for a few years, getting that board tightened up, bringing in someone to do the training, the governance review, all those things to right the ship.
But a lot of that is just hangover from the kind of history of so many organizations, the heritage of the being volunteer led, people working in that kind of management board model where they actually are needed to roll their sleeves up and do some work, practical work. I can imagine that's where that sort of sprang from, or it didn't even spring. It was just a kind of, like I say, a hangover from a past sort of structures. And I encounter that all the time when you're kind of working with teams and really sort of weird things that board members or officers are sort of taking the lead on. Marketing is one. I don't know. Have you ever? I don't know.
Oh God, no,
It's one I always
no.
get trouble with marketing committees. Is the one I always get a headache with, because I'm like, well, have we got anybody who's like a specialist marketer working on the staff or something? Oh yeah, we do. Well, why aren't we just letting them do it?
Well, that's like a membership committee,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
the committee episode, that's for next Halloween. That's a whole different nightmare. But you're right. I mean, especially small associations who are working with limited resources. Hey, it's not uncommon to ask a member, to
Yeah,
ask a member champion to spearhead social media, to undertake a new mentoring program. But member-led programming still has to be staff owned. I mean, you can't. I was working with in preparation for the membership marketing and communications conference, and there are a lot of horror stories about members managing the social media channels, governing different websites, leading different marketing endeavors, kind of using the branding in in
yeah.
haphazard ways.
Mm-hmm.
I've just recently, I do appreciate a branding guide and the rules around that,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
it's amazing how rogue members love to go when it comes to
But again, I think,
representing the organization.
yeah, it's true. But I can't believe this is me being sympathetic to members, but it's like, I think, again, it goes back to that point where saying I'm totally cool with members doing. If you've got someone volunteering to run the social media channels, brilliant, just fantastic. But just give them some guidance, give them parameters, give them some training, give them the tools that they need to do it, just as you would with a member of staff. And they will, I guarantee they'll be far more proficient and efficient and far more willing to sort of not take it seriously is the wrong phrase, but far more willing to sort of engage in real sort of discussion and decision making with you than, yeah, if they feel that they feel like this is their kind of baby and heaven forbid we should sort of interfere with it. And I think that whole tension between staffing and volunteering is one that I think we want to explore a bit further, actually. Not today, but there's an inherent tension in the industry, I think, where you've got volunteers who have a very serious and real sense of ownership of the organization and genuinely do want to put in some donkey work to get to move things along for the benefit of the organization. But that tension between staff and volunteers often sort of undermines that ambition, and I think so much of it is because we fail to support our volunteers sufficiently, and then it just spirals out of some control. So
No, you're right. And I never want to demonize an excited member, an
No,
enthusiastic member
no.
who's willing to give their time. It is how we set them up. It is the expectations we set and the tools and resources we give them. It's when enthusiasm left unchecked.
Yes. Yes.
Becomes something unmanaged, out of hand, and risky.
But is that because we're so grateful to volunteer? Someone's putting their hand up to volunteer that we don't want to kind of risk scaring them off. See what I did there? Halloween episode.
There you go. There you go. I thought you were referring to your LinkedIn, how you're scared to comment when someone likes your post because you don't want to scare them away.
Get away from me. Get away from me. All right. I didn't even just God. Honestly, you are a horror story sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
Baby. You're such a baby. And, people who are on Team Elisa would be unhappy with me if I didn't backtrack a couple seconds and ask you about the term donkey work.
Donkey work?
Yes. Team Elisa wants to know what the heck donkey work means.
Just doing loads of hard work.
Okay.
Like a mule, just you're like a workhorse, just getting it done,
Okay, got it. Thank you. So, all right, last call on horror stories. What else do you have? I have a whole bucket of strategic planning horror stories.
Oh, go on. Yeah, go on. Well, I'll finish. My last one was about event insurance.
For alcohol drinks or auctions or?
I went to a conference, big conference, a couple of thousand people, just chatting with the member of the board. And, I remember asking them, well, how much does it cost to cover this? Looking at me, and I said, what? They said, what? So, well, in terms of what should event insurance look like? It must be a pretty penny. And it transpired that they didn't have event insurance. And this was 2018, so pre-COVID. But it was around the same time of year had COVID happened. These guys had a 2,000, whatever it was, delegate conference, and they had no insurance for it at all, any aspect of it. Now, and then when I dug deeper with them, it transpired that they had no insurances for anything. And this is a big organization. And for me, in terms of financial risks and legal risks and reputational risks, not having any form of it sounds really dull, but it's like, oh my God, if you don't have it, then you really are.
It's the what could happen that's terrifying.
Yeah. That's the terrifying aspect. It was like, oh my God, just one bad thing should happen, and they would have just, well, they were big, but they would have been close to bankruptcy, if it had all gone wrong. So, that for me was like, I always remember, because I just wrongly assumed that it was obvious that you would need to have insurances. And again, these guys were like, well, no one actually told us that. And you're like, yeah, okay, fair enough, I suppose.
Oh, I don't know if the ignorance is bliss excuse gets you off.
Well, no,
it does as long as nothing goes wrong. You can get away with it.
I suppose what I mean is fair enough, but you need to, someone's got to give you. It's the same theme. Always, my constant theme on all of these horror stories is it goes back to that kind of piece about information and knowledge and data and intelligence and training. Otherwise, we are putting staff volunteers in very difficult, trepidatious situations.
When you talk about staff, I mentioned the strategic planning horror stories, and when I come into a situation and I confront an executive director or a board that doesn't want to include staff in the strategic planning process. I mean, how is that? I don't know. That's always one that just kind of makes me open my jaw and just kind of gasp.
Actually, okay, I'll do one better than that. I know an organization that doesn't want to include its board in the strategic planning process.
Yes, that's the flip side of that horror coin.
Staff just got some random group of volunteers and put them together as a strategic planning working group, and it was a complete nonsense. But yeah, so go on.
So many cautionary tales. So many cautionary tales. I hope you can sleep tonight. Like this has brought up a lot of association zombies for me.
I want you to know that after every association transformation recording, I never really sleep very well. It's
Oh my gosh.
one of them is like a horror story. Every one of them is like, American horror. What was that called? What was that program on HBO? American Horror Story?
American Horror Story, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my tiny little Halloween violin is playing
No,
for you.
no, tell me now before we wrap up, because obviously when we record this, we actually can see each other. But now that before we finish recording this, are you going to take off that? Are you going to take off that mask that you're wearing?
No, I dress as a witch every day. Every day.
All
I
right.
did think about dressing as, I know you're just going to sit in your house with the lights off and yell at the kids to go away, but I was thinking about have you watched the new Jedi show on Disney Plus, the Ahsoka?
Not yet, because I'm waiting for them all to come out so I can watch them in like 2 days.
Okay, I was thinking about going, Star Wars, and
I can totally see it. Actually, I can totally see it because
I was thinking about it, and I've reined it back in. I think I might just go Elsa from Frozen. She's my go-to because I've got the white
I
hair
can see why. I
and the
understand.
heart of ice. Yeah, it works out great.
It was the hair I was talking about, but all right, the heart of ice. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay,
It's self-deprecation, Andrew. I'll send you a book.
that's
Happy Halloween, my friend.
Happy Halloween. Enjoy your trick or treat then.
And to everyone out there, if you have horror stories, if you need to talk to someone, we are an association support family. Association Transformation is here. Give us a call, give us an outreach, let us know how we can help, or what what horror story we can help you expose. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It'll be Thanksgiving soon. It'll be Christmas soon. We'll get through this, but learn from this stuff. These
Oh,
are
we're not gonna
cautionary tales.
we're not gonna have to do a special episode where we sort of give thanks, are we? We're gonna have to do that. I'd
You're
like to
not
give
good at
thanks.
that.
No, no. I want to be thankful. I'm thankful for Association Transformation this year.
Well, and I mean, the Pilgrims are really like they broke up with you. Like Thanksgiving's not really,
Our gig. We don't.
it's not really your gig. Yeah, it's kind of like we don't do a 4th of July episode because I just think it would be weird with you.
Kind of is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. Back to work. Back to work. Happy Halloween, everyone. Until next time, put your members and your mission first.